as well. So, and let's make this volunteer, because I don't want to force it on you. Whoever would like to volunteer who's in the room so that our national partners can know who you are. We'll just go around if you want to pass, because I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, but hopefully you will, so we'll know who's in the room. You can do something. We'll start with Al.
All right. Well, hello everyone. I might have already introduced myself to you at the door, but my name is Allie. I am working with Ms. Malone, and I have been for about a month and a half to 2 now. So I've just been doing executive administrative support and been working on different certifications. And I'm currently working on my entrepreneurial skills for small business ownership certification. It's been awesome meeting you all, and I hope you all enjoy the presentations at Tom. Thank you for your time.
All right, who else would like to go next? So we go down. I know did we officially hear from you?
No,
our audience didn't hear, so can you start over and tell me your...
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Jackson Jr. I'm with Anderson Cyber Group, Las Vegas native, born and raised here. I have a TV show called Cybersecurity, where it's TV, and I have a PhD in cybersecurity from Capella University, probably finishing this year. And my program of services help mitigate the damage of cybercrime. So we do investigations with law enforcement. We're close with Reggie Richardson and Safal. Thank you.
Reggie, for our audience and our back east, if you'll introduce yourself, just so our audience.
Okay, yeah.
Because we have them from back east.
Reggie Richardson, Safal Blue, cybersecurity, defense contractor, research and development. Been doing it since 1997. Wealth of knowledge, and we're going to be doing some working directly with Dr. Malone here to do pipeline training for some new cybersecurity activities we got going on. So.
Okay, Gene, can you give a thumbs up if you can hear? Thumbs up if you, oh, he put his hands up. He's like, all righty.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Werner Dixon. I'm with VM Enterprise. VM Enterprise is a small business consulting company. We do business-to-business consulting, and I bring resources to the table such as software, hardware, and also people. So if people are needed in an environment, I bring those to the table as well. And I know these two young men because of that environment. And these are great individuals to continue a relationship with. That's Werner Dixon with VM Enterprise. Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't give the disclaimer, we're actually simulcasting. So every network link in, this room can only fit so many people. So we're, I don't know if you can see all the logos, but it's all simulcasting. And for those that don't know, simulcasting meaning it's broadcasting to all the networks at the same time. Not to put any pressure on anyone, but I just want to give that disclaimer so as you stand. It's being simulcasted, and I want to make sure the right people are in this room to hear from Gene, and that you can go back and tell it to your networks and your employers, okay? But we are simulcasting right now as of the top of the hour. Okay, whoever would like to go next.
I'm Rosalie Bingham. I'm the CEO of Local Sparks and Regenerative. I'm a 4th generation veteran here, and this is my home. And we came back and realized that there was a serious problem with our community resiliency. So we are aimed to empower people to get more involved and receive equity in the build in creating affordable housing themselves and growing their own foods, so that if there's ever a power or transportation issue, internet outage, Las Vegas only has 2 days of food and water on their shelves. That's it. So we want to make sure that we let the communities know that we have solutions, and we're looking for collaborators. And we also do business development and workforce development and training people. Like I was telling this gentleman, we have a veteran that went from homeless to making $120,000 a year within 6 months because he had a cybersecurity training. And so this is, we're not here on this earth to fail or sit back and be quiet. We're about to transform our communities into more regenerative communities that repair and collaborate together to create equanimity with all who are willing to do this shit.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you. We've been on your website. We were vetting on it, and we're like, oh, this is really cool. So great.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to go and introduce themselves? And if not, I'm gonna talk about something because we vetted everybody. I could tell about everybody in this room, but I don't want to mess it up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jaron Gray. I'm the incoming chair or chair-elect for the Urban Chamber. So I will mention real quickly with the urban sharing, we have our IT roundtable where we discuss different issues that affect small businesses. Mike Amy is heading up the IT roundtable. Please reach out to us if you'd like to be a part of it. We'll get you in touch with Mike. You can be a part of the IT roundtable as well. Thank you.
So Mr. Vaughn.
My name is Timothy Wong. I represent the Asian Chamber of Commerce. We're looking forward to working with all of you to generate great apprenticeships and learning opportunities for all of our members and our families and our communities. I'm a recent transplant from California, escaped. And, and I'm also a graduate of Citizens in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's good.
So I look forward to
Oh,
talking to you.
we must have coffee one day.
Yes.
Because I know who you are too. I've already vetted everybody. Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you all.
And I'm glad you said California. We're also located in California. We have a 123-acre property in California for Nevada Health Desk. So we'll talk. We'll do that.
Yes.
All right. Anyone else?
Sure. I'm Mary Argentina with Nevada Industry Excellence. We're an outreach program to manufacturing companies. We're part of the manufacturing extension program, part of the NIST under Department of Commerce. And our goal is to grow manufacturing here in the United States, connect manufacturers, and help them become more robust.
Great. Thank you. Jean, you still good? You can still hear us good? Okay. Thumbs up. Okay. And there's a mic back there as well, a projection. So that's why it's speaking up back there. All right. Anyone else? Or again, it's volunteer. We have time.
Good afternoon. My name is Edward Thompson. I am part of the Workforce Development and Social Initiative Innovation for the City of Las Vegas. We primarily help young adults find opportunities in various career opportunities in various industries. I have a primary focus on esports and the opportunities that can branch out from participating in the esports genre. It's a new industry, but it's been around for a while, and it is growing in leaps and bounds at this point. And cybersecurity is a big part of that. A lot of the young adults that are involved with esports have a really good understanding of it. So we are looking to help them find their way, not just in playing, but again, the various aspects that could be provided through it. We also do cater to the historic West Side. So we have a strong initiative to help the children, Black and brown, in that neighborhood get involved with the opportunities that are there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Hill, Mr.
Hello, everybody. My name is George Hempy. I'm Director of Workforce Development for the Vegas Chamber. And of course, we are all about business. We represent over 4,000 members currently and work with all businesses in our region. Currently, we are involved in sector partnerships. We just completed yesterday number 7. I think we're the only region in the country that has kicked off in 6 months 7 industry sector partnerships, which include healthcare, IT, manufacturing, transportation, logistics, you name it. So we're very much trying to keep up with tech and making sure that our populations, all our populations, will hopefully be as trained as they can, so that as they move into whatever industry they decide it's going to be hopefully something they'll be passionate about, that they'll have that technical background that will help support them. So, and we're happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
And they just brought some more sandwiches. So anybody want steak sandwiches? Because I didn't see those. They brought. I think not eating. Y'all got places. So whoever wants steak sandwiches, there's some more over there as well. All right. Anyone else?
My name is Ellen. I'm with the Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority. This is my first time hearing about Nevada Health Desk, so I'm just here to learn and see what information I can gather and take back to my peers and my coworkers and the families that I do serve.
All righty. And for our labor commissioner, I'm going to ask Jean, did you hear our labor commissioner introduction? He did. He said yes, he did. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. All righty, because he's been in the backstage studio when we did that. Okay, so that one. unless you want to say something for our live audience.
Oh, I was gonna let you go first. I don't want them to skip over you. Okay. I'm Brett Harris. I introduced myself a little while ago, but I'm the new labor commissioner for the state of Nevada. The labor commissioner's office handles and regulates labor laws in the state, specifically wage claims, misclassification. We oversee apprenticeships in the state, prevailing wage, public works projects. So we've got lots of buckets that we flow into, and very excited to be invited here today.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tommy Albert, also with the Southern Nevada Housing Authority. I work in the IT department. I also worked for the services department a number of years ago in the WIOA program, assisting residents and youth with those opportunities, and very excited to be here.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else for giving introductions?
I will go.
Volunteer, all right.
Michelle Talpiovea. I own a business called CBT Analytics, and what our team does is we work with healthcare supply chains. But what's really important for us for cybersecurity is we share a lot of very sensitive data, and that is always a very topic of conversation consistently because we deal with PHI, HIPAA things, and pricing is a really big thing between the hospitals where hackers may not care so much about that, but that if they get that information, we're at risk. So very excited to be here.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else? And Alice? Anyone else? Did we hear from, we didn't hear from him, did we?
Yeah.
We did? No, we didn't. Larry, stand up. Introduce yourself.
I can't wait, so I didn't have to.
No.
I've injected that.
I was trying not to call you out.
Good afternoon, my name is Larry Anderson, and I'm with, who am I with this week? Solution Partners. We are Microsoft centric, but we're also what is commonly known now as influencers, as far as not social influencers, but cybersecurity influencers, because people don't understand it. You have to have somebody in authority come in and actually talk about it. I work with that gentleman right there. What's your name? In cybersecurity, but also everything is Microsoft. And because of that, we do change management, because once you want to bring something new in, there is a problem.
Yes.
So that's what we are in the field right now.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. And a former chairman for the IT Roundtable. You heard Darren speak of the IT Roundtable before. He formerly served as the chair of the IT Roundtable, and I was his co-chair. Without further ado, we got everybody, Jane. So I am going to let me give a official announcement or an official introduction for Gene Ellis. I'll read his bio here. Official Gene Ellis began his journey in registered apprenticeship for over 40 years when he entered an apprenticeship. That can't be. He's only like 45 years old. It can't be. In the ensuing years, he progressed from apprentice to journey worker, mentoring apprentices. 18 years ago, Gene became state director of apprenticeship standards for the state of Maine. Over the next 5 years and a half, he tripled the return on investment for registered apprenticeship in Maine, along with significantly increasing the number of sponsors and apprentices. In 2010, Gene moved to an apprenticeship and training representative position with the United States Department of Labor, Office of Apprenticeship in New Hampshire, ultimately retiring in 2016 as state director. In 2017, Gene started Ellis Consulting, LLC, and became a senior analyst SME, working with the national industry intermediaries, such as Transports and the Urban Institute. In 2021, Gene began work as a consultant and subject matter expert with Safal Partners. And like I said, they're one of the four, and Urban Institute is the other, and then there's two more of the technology intermediaries. So without further ado, please help me welcome Gene Ellis. We'll put you on the big screen, Gene. All righty.
Are they running for the exits yet?
No, sir.
Early days. Thanks, Dwana.
You're welcome.
Before we start, I just want to, on behalf of Safal and myself, thank Duana and the Nevada Help Desk for inviting us here to be with you today. We have a short presentation for you, and I think that some of you, not all of you, are on the apprenticeship in the apprenticeship space. So if looking at the first slide that's been up there for a while, we're talking about increasing your tech workforce through apprenticeship. Many of you would think that apprenticeship is for plumbers and electricians. In fact, that was my apprenticeship as an electrician. But over the last, since probably in the 90s, they started registering apprentices in IT occupations. And right now, there are well over 20 individual discrete occupations in the IT space, several of them in the cybersecurity space. And so if you want, Duana, if you want to move to the next slide.
Allie's got you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Allie. So right now we're in the middle of a national cybersecurity sprint. It's about 100 days, over 120 days. It was launched in July. It is sort of a joint initiative of a group of government agencies and with some very large companies making initial commitments. I would say that these companies here are very much a very small tip of the iceberg that we're working with. So if you could pop the next slide up. All right. So basically, the sprint is to really increase awareness. We have a lot of companies right now that have started cybersecurity related programs. We at Safal Partners, as an intermediary, we partner with employers, we partner with workforce agencies, we work with local workforce boards, community colleges, CTE schools, really a broad range of our society. I will say that cybersecurity is a piece of almost every industry, and most of the occupations within each industry have a cybersecurity component to them. We are now in the world of the Internet of Things, and if you think of a pump or a motor in a generating plant or a oil pipeline, if that is attached to the internet, that can be hacked and bad things can happen. So there's a lot of people that need a lot of pieces and parts of cybersecurity knowledge. So we also, through this, are advancing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the areas of underrepresented populations. And on a slide coming up, we'll talk a little bit more about that. We want to work with employers to let them know that this is not a hard process to become a sponsor of an apprenticeship program or an employer of apprentices. There are options. There are local options in individual states. There are national occupations that for companies that are large enough to work in maybe all 50 states or multiple states in any case. And we work with the employers to integrate their training plans, upgrade internship programs to become apprenticeship programs, and we partner specifically on what the individual occupation looks like. What is the skill set for a user experience designer? What is the skill set for an application developer or a cybersecurity support analyst or a penetration tester? So we work to define those programs, refine them so that they can be used by individual companies. And we do have a function of connecting career seekers to apprenticeship opportunities. There's a website called Cyberseek, which you can go state by state and look at how many the potential job openings in cybersecurity, and it is staggering to think of how many opportunities there are. And for the the groups like Duanas that work with youth and others. That is absolutely key to our future success. So next slide, please. So apprenticeship.gov is the official website of Apprenticeship. They have a cybersecurity sprint page. I will say that we are down to 44 days now. And and you can go there and you can find, there are a lot of great links that will link you to potentially programs, where there are already registered programs that an apprentice could apply to, a person that wants to be an apprentice can apply to. Next slide, please. So Safal Partners, we are contracted. It's not a grant program. We're contracted with the USDOL, and we are a national, what they call industry intermediary. And what that means in a nutshell is that if you think of your own state approving agency, your staff that is the registration agency for apprenticeship in Nevada, there are agencies just like them in all 50 states. Some of them are run by USDOL staff. We are like an extension to that. And we want to work with all those states and all those state agencies, whether they're Office of Apprenticeship or individual state agencies, and partner with them to help them expand the apprenticeship programs in their states. Our job is to be helpful without getting tripped over all the time. That's kind of how I put that. So the organizations that we have worked with over the last 2 years have registered more than 1,100 new apprentices, and 8 out of 10 of them are in, use the word targeted occupations, but underserved populations, minorities, women. So that refers back to that first slide where we're talking about diversity and equity. So next slide, please. So for those of you that wouldn't necessarily know this, it is customizable structured program. And really the key to a good apprenticeship program is the structure itself. For anybody that's coming in, especially a young person, into the process of learning an occupation, becoming fully skilled in that occupation, no matter what it is, having structure matters. It matters a lot. It mattered to me when I was going through my apprenticeship. I knew by looking at that document exactly what I was going to learn over the next few years. And I also knew that what I was going to have to take for classes and the things I was going to learn on the job. And it can be used for new folks, like I was a complete newbie to that occupation, but you can upskill current workers. Incumbent workers are a great source of apprenticeship apprentices for companies, because you know some things about them. You know they show up every day. You know they got a good attitude, and you know that they have a desire to learn and grow with your company. Next, please. So their apprenticeship, it sounds complicated, and some people will try their best to make it complicated, but really there are 5 core components. There is no apprenticeship without an employer. The employer provides to the plan that structured on-the-job learning. They make sure that the apprentice takes whatever the educational component is, whether it's through community college or online, or it can come from the employer themselves if they have the capacity to deliver that technical knowledge. And the rewards for skill gains, this is what I call the carrot. So every apprenticeship program has an entry-level wage and a completion wage when that apprentice becomes the fully skilled person that the plan was for them to become. And that for me was the carrot, because I knew that if I showed up every day and I worked hard and I took my classes and I did well, that in 6 months or a year or whatever the time frame was, that I would get that next pay raise. And if you want real motivation, my wife could read that too. So, and at the end of the day, the USDOL does issue a national skills credential, a certificate of completion of apprenticeship. And I will tell you, of all the documents that I've accumulated over my lifetime, that credential right there is what brought me here today. So it is the overriding reason why I have become what I have become, for better or for worse, I guess. But next slide, please. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, it's all right. We alluded earlier that group up front was just the tip of the iceberg, and we are working. I mean, I just got off a conference call with Cisco Systems. We are working with companies, large and small. And I just want to say here, you're looking at some very large companies. A company that is a sole proprietor, one person, can have an apprenticeship program to train an apprentice. So you can be the smallest of companies and still have an apprenticeship program that will work for you to train the next generation of your workforce, to train not just entry-level people, but up into supervision. There are, in the IT world, there are not just programmers and help desk folks, but there are IT project managers, IT program managers, and with more in the pipeline. I put together about a year ago a penetration tester and got it approved. So it's available for apprentices to use to learn that occupation. And there are some more interesting ones in the works right now. So next slide, please. So why now? Well, always, actually. I mean, I'm a partisan for apprenticeship. So I think, like, if they say to a hammer, everything is a nail, to me, everything's apprenticeship. So the problem is that many companies are having a hard time finding workers. And we know that, and certainly in cybersecurity, there are hundreds of thousands of jobs going wanting. Turnover is a problem. I was not aware of this particular statistic, but I will take it for what it is. I would say if there are any HR folks that are listening to this right now, I'm pretty sure the thing that keeps you awake most nights is trying to replace employees. And if you can increase your retention rate just a few percentage points, you're going to sleep better at night. So people in an apprenticeship program will stay because they have a plan for their training, they have a plan for their future, and we know we have data to back that up. In IT, the pace of change is really mind-blowing in some points. I mean, you start out learning and working with one programming language, and you end up working with 3 new ones. So, and you can tell by the way I'm talking about that I don't know a thing about technology. So, and also if you, I mean, diversity is what will save you, because if you look at the fact that if you were always looking for your employees in one or two places, and it's not working for you, you really have to reach out to nonprofits. You have to reach out to agencies that are working, either governmental or NGO, that are working with diverse populations. I can point to employers right now that specifically go into inner cities looking for underserved populations to bring along and start training and bringing them into large companies. So next, please. So amazing. It is, I think, an article of faith with me that an overwhelming percentage of workers would really want to stay with or switch to an employer that offers them training opportunities. The churn, 92% of apprentices are retained by their employers, and 90% are still with them 5 years later. And that, again, goes to the conversation about with HR directors. There was a study by Sherman, probably a long time ago now, but nobody's ever argued with the statistic. It takes the average company about $8,000 to replace an $8 an hour employee. So if you can increase your retention rate by a few points, you're starting to talk about some serious funds. Structured training plans. Again, that is key to this whole thing, and it brings with it a positive ROI. for the employer that thinks that having an apprenticeship program is going to cost them money and production and all that, that is not the case. And this is a consistent number over many studies. And this is USDOL right here, the $1.47, but the Canadian government did a study several years ago and came up with a very similar number. And not for nothing, employers that have apprenticeship programs, depending on the state they're in, qualify for state incentives, which can range anywhere from free education for apprentices to tax credits per apprentice to grants and any other number of programs. I mean, hiring a veteran brings with it a whole host of veterans benefits that veteran is eligible for. So you can use this. It is not something that would really cost the average employer anything. Honestly, it's a plus. Next slide, please. So yeah, so this is just a little graph that shows basically that what I've just said, that keeping apprentices tend to stay with the company that trained them. The part of that is that you have a year, 2, 3, 4 years with that individual apprentice to really grow and solidify that partnership with them in their future and their skill set. And it is the proof is in the pudding right there. So next slide. And they do stay longer. We talked about this a little bit. The retention rate is much better, and you can see that it is not the same for co-op and interns. Next, please. Okay, so when we partnered with Nevada Help Desk, and this is where I would say that when Dewana talked about us holding hands, I want to assure everybody that it was a virtual hand holding. Much to my loss, but so we work with everybody that we work with. We call our partners. We technical assistance, program support. We do have we will call it modest incentive funding, and we know where the bodies are buried, so we can help access other sources of funding and support if they're available. We do have a partner that provides the educational component, the related instruction. But in the case of Dewana, she has absolutely everything she needs there. So and we also, if you've heard the term synergy, sometimes just introducing people to each other, we facilitate that. We have office hours like once a month, and we invite our partners in to talk a little about each other. And if they make a connection and a partnership that works for them, then that's a day well spent. And everything that we provide to our partners, from the technical assistance to the funding to education for companies that need that, are at no cost to the sponsor, no cost to the employer. So next. Oh, goodness. Okay, so this is me, and I would cheerfully take any questions that anybody has. We can play Stump Gene.
We have a question in the back.
Not one. Any questions?
Yes, my name is Tommy Albert. What type of experience of participants are you looking for? Prerequisites and certifications? Who should apply for this program?
I'm terribly sorry. I could barely hear what you said.
Sorry about that. I started this too. What type of experience should participant have? What are prerequisites or certifications that they should already have in is prior to applying to this program.
Duana, can you? Duana, can you help me out here? I'm sorry, I really can't hear him.
One moment.
Now I can't hear anybody.
Right here. Okay, can you hear us now?
Yeah, yes, I can. I'm sorry.
What kind of experience, qualifications, certifications, prerequisites should one have?
Okay, so that is an individual employer for them to decide. So let me give you a couple examples. In a set of standards in an apprenticeship program, there's a section called minimum qualification. And every employer will set that at a different place. So you can register an apprentice the day they turn 16. So one of the minimum qualifications is being 16 or maybe 18 if the state says so. You can also specify, like, you got to have a driver's license, or if you need a certification that you need absolutely, like C+ or Security+, whatever that certification is. If you, as an individual employer that wants to sponsor an apprenticeship program, need that before they show up day one, then you specify that right up front. So all your applicants will have that, or they won't be qualified. We have companies that don't require a certification, but they do require, there are a couple of aptitude tests out there that they might require a certain score on. I know Cybersecurity has one called CATA, C-A-T-A. There's another one that application developer companies use. It's called Codility, I think. So, but it's really up to the individual employer to specify what their minimum qualifications are. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
And Gina, I'm gonna piggyback off of that, because in our standards, when we have to get our standards approved for the state, we have to define in what we submit to the Apprenticeship Council what that looked like. So in our case, we have students age 16 and up, that they can start, because that's the age our programs start, that they can be employed, and of course, if they're under 18, parental signature, all of that is defined in what's called your standards of apprenticeship, and it has to go before the Apprenticeship Council, and those standards have to be submitted, and then they vote on it as a body, what those standards look like in terms of that. And do they need a high school diploma or GED? All of those things have to be defined and approved before you can actually have that apprenticeship registered in our state.
Excellent.
And that's where that comes in. That's where you spell out, and there are different appendices that attach to it. So that's where you spell out even the related technical instruction and what all of that looks like. So, and I learned everything I know from Jean and Katie. So, did I answer right, Jean?
You did, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you could show, your standards are exactly what I was just talking about. So you also have a section in there about selection. So where you are required to put into the standards, and again, this is based on your model as an employer, where are you going to recruit from? Okay. So we have programs out there that are recruiting specific youth aging out of foster care. So they're recruiting from agencies that work with youth aging out of foster care.
I was trying to flex my apprenticeship muscle a little bit.
Yeah.
Anybody? In front of the labor commissioner. Anyone else?
So to reframe what you're saying, so I understand, is your program as a company, we would hire and sponsor a program, so we have a different cost breakdown for that? Is it done on, does it matter for our students or veterans or students or senior citizens, or just, white soccer moms who know hardly anything like me? What is it that we are doing so that we actually, I know the cost, the back end cost of this, what is it? or is there a varying scale of what it costs to do an apprenticeship program?
The costs surrounding apprenticeship programs, once a company makes a decision that they need to train employees, because when they need somebody, they open the front door and there's nobody standing there, so they've got to train. There's no fully skilled people available. They would work with, in the case of a smaller company, they might work with the state agency, the apprenticeship agency in the state, to put the program together. So there's no cost for that other than your time, okay? And the time is not, it doesn't take a lot of time. You need to, once you've determined the occupation that you want to hire and train apprentices in, and it can be incumbent workers that are already on your payroll, okay, that you need to upskill, or take somebody that is doing one job now but you believe has the capacity to do this other job. And then you once you've done that and you've got your program all approved and ready to go, then it's a matter of either recruiting and hiring, or sitting down the incumbent worker and saying, we have this program to help you do this, this, and this. Are you interested? Because apprenticeship is voluntary on the part of an employer, and it's also voluntary on the part of the apprentice. You can't force somebody to become an apprentice if they don't want to. So far, we haven't spent any money other than maybe HR time or whoever's shepherding this through. And once it's up and running, that person is a paid employee. So you have that, you have a wage that you're going to pay. And as you noted earlier, the average company reports that they get $1.47 back for every dollar they spend on an apprentice. So, we think that it's at the very least, it's pretty much revenue neutral. We think it's revenue positive based on the evidence. Our services are absolutely free. If you wanted to send that Gene Ellis at Safal Partners an email and work with us, everything that we would do for you, including putting all the standards together, working on the appendix that has the work process, the on the job and the related instruction, all of that is free to you. So you wouldn't be spending a penny. You'd have to review it to make sure it meets your needs. But there's that. Now, depending on what your company does, we are specific to IT occupations, okay? There are other intermediaries out there. If there are people from manufacturing in the audience, there are intermediaries that do everything that we do, but it's all about manufacturing. The same with healthcare, the same with construction, and Duana mentioned the Urban Institute. They are an intermediary, but they are a youth intermediary, 16 to 21-year-olds, but agnostic as far as the occupation, any occupation, as long as they're between 16 and 21. And they have that same technical assistance, incentive funding, the help to get you started, the help to as you get used to the program, and help to expand your program if that's what needs. If there are already existing programs like Duana and she wanted to expand to another occupation, we would help her with that.
Well, thank you for that, because I guess the thing is, I had experience in my other year before this, where we were having to pay, or we were expected to pay $5,000 per participant so that we could get them cybersecurity, just the IT fundamentals, and that was we couldn't get WIOA funds for it, and it was just a mess. And so this is exactly what we're looking for. So you will be getting an email from me
okay
on that. So
well, so that is very helpful in the context of the question you asked, because here's the thing. So related instruction, the educational component that apprentice is required to take, you are not required to pay them while they're taking those classes. Let's say they're taking their classes at a community college. You're not required to pay them while they're in those classes. You are not required to pay for those classes. That can be borne by the apprentice. I paid for my apprenticeship program for the coursework that I took. I paid for my tools. I paid for all that. So the apprentice would have to bear that unless you can find funding, either through, again, you mentioned WEO or some, like there are at least a couple states that if your apprentice was in that state, they could go to the community college and get free classes. Now, the certifications that you have to pay CompTIA or whoever it is to take that certification, you can use incentive funding for that purpose. It may not pay the whole thing. So there's a little, I just want to be careful here. We can't pay for the whole thing. We do have related instruction that we do provide, but that's a conversation we can have.
Okay, so I guess I did misunderstand, and then I understood now. So there is a fee that is being charged not to the employer, but the apprentice pays it. But if the apprentice is coming from a disadvantage, they could possibly get then help for scholarships for that. But however, someone has to pay that fee, and when they were approaching us, we were raising capital at a time that 2020 just hit, and so it was difficult to raise capital to help people in those situations. So we are still stuck in this cycle where something has to be paid for the IT program if they can't qualify because of subsidies.
Jean, maybe I can support her in that area because that's exactly what we do. None of our students can afford for the training and the certification. Some of our training certification alone, upward 1,000, way more than the 5,000 you're talking about. So I'm happy to also intercede with the conversation offline with her so that I can share kind of how we're doing it, coupled with their funding. I want to also add that we were able to get funding from both Urban Institute and Safal partners, incentive funding, coupled the CEH alone, which is a certified ethical hacker, just the exam costs about $2,000 just for the exam alone. So I could also be a support, just kind of best practices, Jean, if you want offline, and be a support on how we're doing that as well.
Right, and I would point out that one reason, like I say, there's nothing in the regs around apprenticeship that require a company to pay for the related instruction. Let's keep in mind that the apprentice is making a paycheck, right? So it's not everything, but there are a lot of people out there that are putting themselves through college and spending a lot of money and coming out without a job and with college debt. Apprentices don't have that generally, so because they have that paycheck they're making day to day, week to week, and can bear some of that cost. It's nice if they can find some cost sharing and incentive funding over here and a grant over there. It takes a village. It's true.
For sure. Oh, grants, incentive funding, all of it together. Any other questions? This is good stuff. I'm excited. Good stuff. Any other questions? And I know today's sprint is focused on cybersecurity, but as Jean mentioned, for technology, there's software engineering, there's multiple help desk support, which we have actually, almost 100 jobs we're hiring for the next 60 days through our employer partners, with just help desk support as well. The focus today is on cybersecurity, which I know every business should have anyway. Cybersecurity. Did everyone see the press release? Over 700,000 jobs available in the cybersecurity industry. So I'm glad we're talking about this subject today, but keep in mind we're not limited to that. That's just the focus today. Yes, sir.
Glad you said that.
Yes, sir.
And just keep talking to the audience. So one of our partners back east, we set this up for you. So the IRS has legacy systems, and IBM supports them.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with the aging workforce, and I keep hearing this more and more, right? There are no COBOL or DB2 programmers. So I sent something to you late last night. I don't know if you've seen it, I can resend it. Here's a link for a portal. They're looking to hire people with the skills, $30 to $50 an hour interns to get trained in COBOL That's how bad it is.
Wow.
That's how bad it is.
Wow.
So right now, I sent that link out for you. Anybody who wants to actually print, it's gonna be about 30 people, 10 at a time. And you can get through it and get it. Guys, it's a job.
COBOL's a very old language.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the problem.
When you said that, I might have to invest my skills like an old football
Yeah,
program.
but the mainframes are still there. The IRS is still using these legacy systems, right? So they don't have the people to do it. So they need people in there.
He's stuck in the same thing.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's the generation I'm a computer programmer by trade.
Right,
yeah.
Right. 30 years ago. Oh my God.
You're too expensive.
That's right. Most can't afford me. That's why I've been business women.
Yeah, that's, so I'll resend that out, guys. We're looking for.
Wow, that is so good.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Gene or any other? That's good stuff. Or any other likewise announcements like that? That was all right. Any other questions for Gene? That's good stuff.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
So thank you very much, Gene. My name's George Hempy. I am with Vegas Chamber of Commerce, Director of Workforce Development. My question deals with scaling this up. You know, it's such a great model. Apprenticeship has always been a great model. But how do we scale this up so more individuals can have access to that? I'm not sure if it's just the bureaucracy that you have to go through. That might not be the right term, but if we could do that, this is what the political backdrop asks us a lot of times is, how do you scale it up, George? Yeah, you're making a dent in this, but are you making a difference?
Right.
That question makes sense.
That's good.
I guess, yeah, it's a great question, and there are strategies. So you're a chamber of commerce. In addition to employers and schools and others, associations can become the sponsor of an apprenticeship program. So as a chamber, you have member companies. So for all those member companies, the chamber itself could go and become a sponsor of apprenticeship. Your companies could simply sign onto your program through a one-page document called an employer acceptance agreement and employ apprentices. Now, you have to work with your members to say, what occupations do we need? Because your chamber program will have to house those occupations. But that way, your individual companies would not have to go through all of that. The chamber goes through it one time. Your member companies can train apprentices by being partnered with you. And that would free them all up to just to do that, right? So there's one way, and the other, we work with schools that become sponsors of apprenticeship program, and their students are the apprentices that go out to work for companies in sort of their neighborhood. We have CTE schools that are sponsors of apprenticeship, that Cisco academies, NetAcad, have apprentices. So there are lots of ways, but it really just takes, that journey of 1,000 miles takes that first step. But we have people on Safal's staff that are very familiar with working with chambers, working with workforce development boards. Workforce development boards could very much work and develop pre-apprenticeship programs, which are programs to get people to sort of the level where they have an understanding of an occupation and can legitimately go and apply and be accepted into that occupation as an apprentice. So there are a lot of tools, and we can talk about them maybe at another time, but we're always happy to explore.
That was good. Gene, can you speak to, there's another question, I'm sorry.
No, it's just a follow-up question. Thank you. I love the idea of as a chamber sponsoring that, but I've worked with a lot of different boards around the country, and many of them are not doing this. So what is their downside to do that, especially for like the pre-apprenticeship? type programs, are we gonna change some of the rules or criteria to that? So more of those boards would be willing to start that, or what do you see being the issue?
In WIOA, the boards have the authority to do that today and have had for many years now. With the new, when it went from WIA to WIOA, they really added a great emphasis on apprenticeship. I mean, they can use, based on local policies, they can use money to provide funding for wages. They can use that for individual training accounts to pay for an apprentice's eligible apprentice's related instruction. So there's a lot of tools they can use today. Now you're asking me for kind of a political answer, but since I've been on both sides of that state employee, federal employee thing, they really, the focus has always been on getting people into so incumbent worker training programs, or just a short term where they provide 50% of the wages reimbursement for 6 weeks or 9 weeks. They've always focused on that. They have not traditionally, and this is not 100%, but they have not traditionally focused on sort of the longer term. Apprenticeship is a longer term program. You have to track it for a year or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the length of the program, right? Instead of a short-term program. I think that's part of the problem. I think part of the problem, certainly in state agencies or federal agencies, is turnover. You get somebody trained on an apprenticeship program, and they take another job someplace else, and you got to train a new person. So I've seen that in my own experience. Doing that. I don't mean to offend anyone. It's just I've seen it. There is a churn in state employees that would otherwise be doing that work. So there's issues, but basically workforce boards by their makeup have to be 50% plus one employers. If the employers on the individual board say, hey, we need to do this, then I think that would start to make some difference. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I was CEO for 4 different boards around the country, and I agree with you. If the membership says let's do it, and for Rosalie here, who's having some challenges with the WIOA, I say don't say I said this.
We're live.
Right?
We're live.
No, I would do a presentation to local board, and the business leaders are going to be there and say, why don't we try this? Okay. That long term is an issue in terms of the training and all that, but now we're getting some new monies, or we're going to be sending a proposal for some of the new monies for apprenticeships. And my understanding is these can be shorter term, because that's what, in my opinion, I'm hearing from industry is they want to be able to do these 3 months, these 6 months, really short term, skills based, occupations that are very specific. So again, not trying to get political with it, but we are in a skills based economy, and these are what employers want today. So,
yeah, absolutely. We're seeing very large employers that are no longer hiring for bachelor's degrees; they're hiring for skills.
That's right.
And I will say, as forward thinking as I am in apprenticeship, there's still a requirement that they're at least 2,000 hours long. 3,000, 3 month and 6 month apprenticeships don't. I struggle with that, and they don't meet the regs. So, but competency-based apprenticeships, if you have somebody that's got some prior experience, can be shorter than a year, because the employers can have the ability to award credit for prior experience. Generally, you couldn't really cut it down much more than 50%. Otherwise, it's simply traditionally just not meaningful enough. But it's a conversation that will continue to crop up. I would bet anything.
thank you.
So, one comment on that. So, I got to introduce reality into this. As an employer and dealing with this, we've trained a lot of people to pay for advanced training. And with the younger folks, they really want two things: pay and training, because they're still climbing the ladder.
Right.
People that are more established, they want pay and benefits, right? So I will hire them in, I will get them advanced training and give an 18-month commitment. But I look at them all, and I know it's coming. I says, you know what, when you get this training, you're gonna leave. And today they said, no, boss. I said, yes, you are. He said, yes, you are. Because I know what it pays, right? And sure as I'm sitting here, they come back, yeah, I'm sorry, but they offered me, well, I thought I told you that. You know, yeah, and so you just pay me back my money and let's stay in touch, right? But this is the reality of things. That 120, that's not unusual. It is not unusual. These guys, the world is in their hand, but they gotta understand it's there. So I understand turnover is going to be a part of it. And so that's why I'm doing an apprenticeship program, right? So I can keep turning them over because I get it. I can't afford to pay them some of the rates that they come with. So I just gotta have turnover. So that's just reality.
Wow. Jean, we have, I know, 2 more minutes to keep our time till 1 o'clock. Do you have any closing comments? Are you sticking around for after party while they?
You know, this is my most fun, but not my last meeting of the day. I have another one I got to go to, but I do want to address that. And you know, this is just this is anecdotal. I get that, and it's one man that told me this. When I first started as state director, I was at a conference, and a gentleman looked me right in the eye and says, "I'm not going to train people because they're just going to leave." And I said, "Okay." So a year later, I'm at the same conference, and he comes up to me and says, "I'm going to train people, and if they leave, it's my fault." Like, and that was a sea change in 1 year. I hear you. The PowerPoint that you just saw had some really reliable statistics about the fact that people want to learn, they want to train, they will stay with people that will invest in them. And if you show them that, that will slow it down. Nothing's going to stop it, because there's always somebody now out there that will steal them, you know, for better or for worse. But you know, apprenticeship is that structure that you have that opportunity to create that partnership where you'll invest in them, they'll invest in you. So
That's true. And Jean, if I can, I just want to offer an idea for Mr. Hempy's recommendation or ask in terms of how even the chamber can be a sponsor of other businesses and all of that. And because we're doing that with one of the county, one of the government partner that we have. And then Nevada Help Desk is kind of serving as that intermediary local, if you will, so that we don't have to deal with all of the administrative and all of that, because we're most knowledgeable in that area. So we kind of serve as that like sponsor, I guess, if you will, in that in between the employer and the apprentice, so that all of the stuff that they may not know at this point, we offset that. So in this instance, in this scenario with our government partner, they're bringing the people, and then we're kind of overseeing the apprenticeship part of it. So for the chambers, if they have like a designated, and we can support in that as well, but like that, I don't want to call it intermediary because you all are the national intermediary, but maybe like a local intermediary that knows all the ins and outs of the apprenticeship and can do all the, you know, the administrative and meet all the terms and make sure the paperwork, everything is done. And that way it doesn't stop them, and they can just continue on in that flow and bring the people, get their apprentice, have continuous training, because it is new for a lot of people, particularly in technology. So have that ongoing training, and that ongoing would be an idea. If you know, we can talk about
right.
the county. Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely doable. I just want to caveat that you have in the room the labor commissioner there, and the apprenticeship folks in the state of Nevada are what I call the authority having jurisdiction. Okay, so it's fine for me to say what the regs say and this and that and the other, but they're the ones that you're going to have to work with. Now, we're more than happy to provide technical assistance to both sides of the fence on that one. And to try to create a situation in Nevada where this will work and it can be scaled, and the citizens and the employers, you know, can all find benefit in it. So,
All right, we're ready for the benediction. Oh, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna pass the plate.
Since it came up, I didn't know if everyone in this room is aware, but Nevada has a statutory position, a state apprenticeship director, whose purpose is to assist apprenticeship council, and has statutory requirements. And that position was vacated before I got here, so we're currently looking for that. But what I think is very important from the infrastructure money that's coming in is we have a break in the education between the messaging that we've had for decades of go to college, take on all this debt to get a better job. And what Jean is saying is so true, is that people want skills. They want to hire people that can already do things. And that means teaching people and paying them as they go. So these programs are, I think, so great, and something that was not really advertised as an option when I was growing up. And I think part of the barrier is going to be the education in the community.
That is so true. Spoken like a true labor connection. All right. So Jean, thank you so much on behalf of Nevada. We're in the state of Nevada building. So on behalf of Nevada and Nevada Help Desk and all of our business and workforce partners, thank you so much for your time. And if we weren't virtual, I would send you a gift through the thing. I may have to mail you a gift for your time, but thank you so much.
we'll hold hands again.
We'll hold hands, and here you go.
Oh,
on behalf of Nevada Health.
Thank you very much.
All right.
On the behalf of Safal Partners, thanks for putting up with me.
Oh, you're so welcome. All right, we're gonna let them loose with some food and drinks, and I know you got another meeting, so thank you.
All right. If I can figure out how to leave, I'll leave. Bye-bye, Duana. Thank you so much.
Bye, Jean. Okay, bye-bye. Oh, there were some. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm looking at these questions here. I will be in Las Vegas. Oh, these folks. Okay, we'll send the responses. Okay.